San Gabriel Valley. I'd like to welcome you to an episode of From the Corner Office in Our Homes. Today's guest is Loren Witkin. Loren is the CEO of Citadel Environmental Health and Safety, and we were lucky enough to interview Loren a little less than a year ago, although with COVID it does seem like it was much longer. We had so much activity around the interview that we had with Loren that we wanted to ask him back. Something else that has come that's a positive out of COVID is that you all have the opportunity to meet my partner in crime, Gail Schaefer-Gordon. Gail is the producer for From the Corner Office. And before we start our interview with Loren, I would love Gail just to say a few words and then we'll hop right into our interview with our guest.
Yeah, it's so fun to be on this side instead of on the other side, directing camera people, and being able to sit here and be able to participating, asking the questions and saying, oh gosh, if I could only be there to ask a question. So it's nice to see you across the screen, Loren. It's been great continuing our relationship and keeping up, and we're really looking forward to hearing your perspective post, well, it's mid-COVID as opposed to post-COVID, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. Back to you, John.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as part of the panel today. And Loren, this is going to be more of a discussion than just a Q&A, which is kind of, I think it's probably even a better opportunity for all of us to learn more about you and the company and get a couple different perspectives, which is really nice.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys for having me back. It does feel like it's been an eternity since we met. It's been crazy. I mean, really what we used to think was the improbable becomes the actual the next day. It's really pretty incredible.
So Jackie, I don't think I told you, but when I checked in with Loren, he said that you guys already had predicted it and you were prepared.
We started to work on it back, I think it was January or February 9th. We have some people in our community that my wife keeps in touch with, and they were on the Diamond Princess, and they were some of the first COVID patients. And so they started tweeting right away about what was happening. And so I started following it pretty early on. I think, again, it was in February, and we knew that there was something a little bit different about this. So as a company, we started convening our meetings at the very beginning of March, and we started having conversations about business continuity and what does this look like. So yeah, I felt that we had preparation to the extent that you could be prepared for something that no one's been through in our time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Have you seen just within your business since March 16th, what have you found out in the community and the projects that you've been working on? What changes have you found, and how have you been working with your employees around that?
So that's a great question, Jackie. See, I gave you credit there.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we're fortunate that being an essential business, our work has continued. We've had very, very few cancellations of projects, so things have continued. I think what we also found out was we knew we had a great staff. We knew that we had really good leadership, but it's when you have crises that test those assumptions that you really find out what you've got. And I could not be more proud of our employees. They have shown up to work every single day. They've gone out to project sites where they, as health and safety professionals and environmental professionals, they put themselves at risk every day. But this added a whole new dimension to it, and it involved their families and what have you. And they just leaned into it. They showed up to their jobs every single day to a T. Not a single person said, not coming to work. And that has been just really fantastic. So we are, in my mind, we're the company that we thought we are. So that was rewarding. And our clients have been terrific too. They embraced the changes. They made the necessary modifications. And just got to it. So I loved the resiliency of it.
That's fantastic. Definitely making you a premier company. And based on the companies that I have worked with and partner with, you're lucky in that those employees have come in every single day. Gail, what have you seen with some of the members that you have with Vistage and so forth?
Well, I think this group that I have now is pretty amazing, and the vast majority of them were essential businesses, which is a real difference. There were some folks that are involved with theme parks and entertainment that are, of course, just the opposite, but they still had ongoing projects that they were able to continue on and slowly wind down. But Loren, you were also able to do some pivoting because of the industry you're in. I know that you were put on some amazing webinars with a lot of really good information about COVID, about reopening. So did that also result in some additional kind of new business for your firm?
So what is really surprising about that, and thank you for the recognition, Gail, I appreciate that. Our staff did put in a lot of work to make sure that there was information available to the community. So what is so interesting to me is that we are comprised of about 3 to 4 different divisions. A building sciences division, an engineering and environmental sciences group, which is heavily dependent upon the construction industry and the development industry. And then we've got an industrial hygiene and safety group. And that industrial hygiene and safety group is led by someone who's an epidemiologist by education. So we had this great skill set. The thing that is the most amazing thing to me is that the other 2 divisions kept very busy with billable work. Industrial hygiene and safety, in my wildest dreams, they are the ones that actually had the first losing months in our history. And again, what you think is the improbable becomes the actual. There's no way I would ever think that that's the group that's not going to be able to monetize their work. Now, with that said, it's not that they weren't busy. They were really, really busy addressing community concerns, providing information. We were getting just calls from universities saying, hey, we need to house our students. You guys know apartment developers. Can you put us in touch? I mean, so we just spent our time doing so many other things that weren't profit making or we couldn't monetize. So it was, again, it's just so unusual.
Isn't it?
That group has been tremendous as far as organizing our company and getting our clients in a position to respond. Now, what we are seeing is now that we're starting to move to these later cycles, now we're getting requests from clients saying, hey, help us get our staff back to work, get our students back on campus, and so forth.
So that was really, by giving to the community, that was your, not thinking about it, but that was how you were really marketing for the work that you're getting now, I would imagine.
Yeah, and as we've talked about in the past, our philosophy is that profits are a byproduct of what you do. If you focus on the money aspect of it, it's short term. If you focus on just doing what you're supposed to be doing, do what's right, everything else will take care of itself.
Well, and I think people notice that. So when you're community focused, help first focused, people want to work with people that are like that it's not only about the money.
Yeah, I think that's true. What we find out about character is it's not what we say, it's what we do. And it's, character is what shows up when the cameras aren't there or when people aren't watching. And I've been really proud again of our staff. They've just shown a tremendous amount of character, and so have our clients as well. They've just been there to do the right thing.
So I think it's interesting, Loren, looking at your background, and these are things that you've built, and these are all high density environments, stadiums, yes. High-rise buildings. How do you see your role being different, or and what kinds of services are you going to be needing to provide to people in these high density environments that's new and different, and how is that going to impact all of us in the future?
So our job often is to get people comfortable. These are emotional times, across the spectrum with a lot of things going on right now. Our job is to help minimize the emotion and try to bring some logic to it, some facts, education, communication, and minimize fear and take fear out of it. So that's done through having a plan. That's through communicating the plan. It's through training. It's through doing some verification and making sure that things are actually getting done, and making sure that during this process that this isn't just a short-term crisis. This isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And so we're just trying to work to pace ourselves, pace our clients with, in the community, just endure, right, for this. And so I think that's sort of the role that we play is, we just try to bring the facts to people and say that it's going to be a changed environment, but it's manageable. We can live through this. We're going to live through it. And so I think that's what we're doing in this process. And when it comes to density, yeah, that's where the fear really, comes to bear.
It's true.
Well, I thought it was interesting in watching. I'm sorry, I'm taking over here, Jackie. I'll step.
It's all good because the next thing you're going to be talking about is what I told you I wanted to ask him about. But that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I just know in watching the webinar on what were going through all the different chemicals that are available and all of the HVAC things that you could be doing. My takeaway was, soap is pretty darn good. And if you can soap and water, and unless it's a high traffic area, all this other stuff is way more than what most people need to worry about. And so when you talked about dealing with the emotions and calming people down, that's what I connected with in the webinar.
Absolutely. It's very practical applications and responses. The fear factor tells us that if we go out into the environment, it's going to find us and it's going to come and get us. It's like a horror movie, and it's not, right? That's something that's very predictable. We're starting to understand how it behaves, how it's transmitted, how to protect ourselves, and practical applications like soap and water and so forth. So you're 100% right. It's very practical. It's manageable, scary, but it's manageable for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to pivot just a little bit. I would love to hear a little bit about your series on life and leadership.
Okay. So on life and leadership, where that came from was, like I said, these are crazy, uncertain times. And I wanted to be able to communicate some messages to our staff that talked about perspective, that something that would lift our eyes and look around and just, I don't know, stop and smell the roses in a sense and not be so myopic of our current situation. And I think that it's important for both their personal lives and also their professional lives. And one thing we talk about is that what happens in your personal life shows up in your professional life. And during these times, you can't separate those two things out. So I thought, let's come up with some videos. And they were sort of inspired by Masterclass. I don't know if you guys have seen Masterclass, little plug for them, but just doing these interviews. And we wanted to keep these videos short. I think if I see a YouTube that's more than 5 minutes long, I'm like, I'm not going to watch it. So we wanted to find things that were about maybe 5 minutes. And so I realized that I didn't think I was the best messenger for that message. So I turned to a buddy who's really just a phenomenal guy. And I said to Ron, I said, hey, Ron, would you film these segments for us? And so that's what we did. We came up with about 14 videos that we're slowly releasing. And what happened during we started to pivot to our next crisis, which was civil unrest. I thought, man, these things are so appropriate now and so in need. So I said, let's just share them. Let's put them on our website, not just our intranet. Let's share them widely with whomever would like to look at them. And we have had such great feedback. I got a phone call this past weekend and someone said, I started watching those videos and wow, just amazing. So yeah, it's been great. So Yeah, so Jackie, I hope I answered your question there, but it just
Uh-huh.
some information, just motivate, give people perspective.
Well, it's wonderful. So he's actually a rabbi, but
He
he does
is.
organizational consulting. Is that?
So he has got a tremendous past. His name's Rabbi Ron Lapaz, and I met him probably 10 years ago or so. He's a decorated military vet. He is a former opera singer on Broadway and West End. He
Wow.
is a consultant as well. He was working for multinational companies. He still consults for UCLA's Anderson School of Management in East Africa. He also he was just in at the Vatican during this whole thing, and he had given a blessing to the Pope. He's working on interfaith dialogue as well. He's been traveling the world, working with imams and
Mhm.
popes and the police department here. He's just such an incredible guy. He'd be a good one to interview. But I thought that he would be perfect for those messages, better than me. And sometimes as a leader, you've got to check your ego at the door and say, who's better for this? And he's definitely the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, don't show him this video because his head will explode. But
Well, maybe I think that's probably a good suggestion. While he's not a CEO, he's doing a lot of he has some perspective of what's going on on the corner offices these days, and the wisdom. I love rabbinical wisdom. It's just so clean and simple and pure. So, where does this inspiration come from, Loren? You're one of, Jackie and I see a lot of CEOs and a lot of amazing CEOs. And then there are some of those that are just even a higher notch above in terms of the way that they think about inspiring people and developing people and building just an amazing culture. And so where does that come from? Have you been this way your whole life, or, what is this about?
I'm actually a serial killer and an axe murderer at home.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's very kind and generous. And I'm gonna give credit to my parents. They are amazing. They taught me a lot about values, and I think those values have to continue into the workplace. And then, a lot of it's through trials and tribulations, and I'm on a journey still. The things that I will look back and I'll watch this video, and in a year from now I'll say, really, I thought that, or I did this. This is just a journey. What I've taken away from this crisis, or both of these crises, is that there are opportunities within those crises. Right? We can allow them to dictate us and to control us, or we can look at those experiences and say, what are we going to get out of this? How are we going to come out of this, both as a company, as a family, as an individual? How are we going to come out of this bigger, stronger, better than we went into it? And so that's what I think that's what I'm trying to do personally. I think that's what we're trying to do professionally, is say bad times don't last forever and good times don't last forever. So let's make the most of what we've got. And it's funny because there's the parable that was in one of Ron's videos. I think maybe it was number 2. And he talked about this parable of you never know what a bad event is and what a good event is while you're in it. It's not until you get out of the story a little bit, you look back and go, wow, what we thought was a bad thing actually turned out to be a good thing. So I think part of it is just trying to keep perspective during these times.
So do you go how do you continue your learning? Do you go to other people, or is it you read, or you have introspection? How do you do that continuous learning as someone who has already done a lot of learning?
So, part of it is trying to challenge myself, and look for opinions that are different than mine. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable, particularly right now. I think we all have our opinions and our thoughts about maybe where we're at and answers. And it's very easy in today's age with algorithms for our search engines that it'll continue to feed you information that agrees with you or that you agree with. And it just reinforces your views. So it is hard to step outside of that and say, okay, I'm going to read something else. One thing my dad did, which was great, frustrated me to no end growing up. And I didn't understand it until later. Again, you don't know what a good thing is and a bad thing is until you're past it. But my dad always took a contrarian view to what I had. And man, it was difficult. And I didn't understand what he was doing. But it always made me get to a point of understand before being understood. And the only way you can do that was by trying to figure out where is the other person coming from or the other side coming from in this. And if I can understand what's important to them, I can then figure out how we can align our interests, not just balance interests or what have you. And I think what I'm seeing now, which is disconcerting and frustrating, is that I'm not seeing a lot of great dialogue happening in the communities. I think it's very emotional, obviously, and we will get back to dialogue, hopefully, but we need to spend some time just listening to one another, no matter how uncomfortable those other opinions are. We need to understand them. We can't shut them down. We can't trample them, because all that happens at that point is we bury those emotions and those feelings, and they resurface in other ways. They surface in the ballot box. They surface other places. The only way we get this thing resolved, in a sense, is we have open, candid dialogue. And that holds true for the family. It holds true for our company. It holds true for our community. So sorry about the speech there, but yeah, that's sort of how I look at it right now.
I think that was sage advice, actually, and very Stephen Covey. What is it? Seek to understand before being understood.
100%. And that is actually one of our sort of mandatory readings for our company is 7 Habits.
So I think we have a couple minutes left. Is that right, Gail?
We have 10.
Awesome. I would love to find out what's next for Citadel. Where do you see the next 6 months, year? What's next for you?
Man, if I had that crystal ball, Jackie, if I had that crystal ball.
I've got some lottery tickets too I can sell you.
I'll take them. I'll take shamans, anything you've got, we'll take. What we've communicated to the company was that our destination remains the same. What has changed for us, and I love to use parables and analogies and metaphors, is that it's like when you're driving and you have a clear day and you can see clearly down the road and you know where you're going. It's easy to navigate. Well, our destination now is still the same destination, but there's a pretty big amount of fog out there. There's a lot of rain on the windshield. We can't see as far down the road. We've got to grip the wheel sort of tight, and any mistakes that we make can be much more catastrophic in this environment than when everything's clear. So I think in the next few months, what we're going to do is we're going to try to continue down our destination, which is slow, predictable growth. The strategic priorities that we have for the company are first, keep everyone safe and healthy, first and foremost. Keep people productive and busy, and then let them thrive. I mean, we've got some initiatives for 2020 that we're still working on, and working on working capital and just business stuff. But the other part of it is thrive. Like I said, we want to find the opportunities in this, and we want to figure out how do we invest in our people? How do we do things so that we come out better, faster, stronger? There's so often where you say, gosh, we're so busy. If we could only if everything could shut down for 2 weeks, if the world would shut down for 2 weeks. Well, yeah, it's shutting down for like 18 months. So we got a whole lot of time to go figure out and do important things and come out of this better. So that's our goal.
Love it. Love it. Looking strategically, so I'm going to take that and I want to just push it a little further. When you
Yeah.
look strategically on any pivots that need to be made, because right now, if it's 18 months, my heart just sunk, but if it's 18 months, is there another pivot that needs to be made by you, by the company? What are your thoughts on different things that you need to do to ensure that strategy is met?
So the weakness that we're finding right now, and I think a lot of companies are, is that we are busy. We still have backlog, but proposal activity is slowing down. So that's new opportunity. So our concern is not today or tomorrow. It is going into Q1 of next year. We have got to make sure that we're focusing on sales, making sure that we are capturing the opportunities that we're presented, making sure that we're caretaking for our staff and for our clients, and making sure we're looking after them. So it's not so much a fundamental pivot. What I find too is, what happens when you go shopping when you're hungry? It's not a good outcome, right? And so I'm not going to make any major decisions when we're emotional about stuff either. So no major pivots. We're just going to continue to do what we sort of do. We're going to communicate with our staff. What I realized is I always said you can't over communicate. I think you can over communicate. I've realized don't set out emails just to have emails. Don't set up Skype meetings or Zoom meetings just to set up meetings. Just communicate with them. Let them know. You'll communicate with them when there's something that's important. Don't add to the noise. And so we'll continue to communicate. We'll continue to be transparent with them. I think in leadership, one thing I think that's lacking right now in general in society is that leaders need to lead right now. And that means telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. And we're going to tell them the good news, the bad news, whatever it is. We're going to continue to do that, and then stay to our values. We've established these principles and values, continue to communicate them, continue to live those values. And one of those is extreme ownership, which is taking responsibility for what we can take responsibility for. Don't sit there and point fingers and blame others. Take care of what you've had to take care of yourself, and then look to others. So that's what we're going to do, is try to be true. What's kept us going for 27 years through earthquakes and all sorts of other recessions and depressions and what have you. And we're just going to do the same thing.
So Jackie, can I ask one question that my ears perked up? Because I'm always, with a Vistage group, you have people that are in different stages along the economic cycle. And so I would presume that you're one of the leading indicators in terms of where the economy is heading. So if you're beginning to see a slowdown in proposals, I'm thinking about the folks that I have that are now in construction and and designs that have already been completed. They're seeing that their work is going to be lasting through 2022. So in terms of the cycle, where are you? So how early on in terms of the construction cycle, do you come in at almost the blue sky stage of planning? So if you are and your work is slowing down, then is that projecting kind of like into 2023 construction, or what would you say that is?
That is a super question too. So one of our organizing principles is environmental health and safety for the life cycle of real estate and business. And so, yeah, sometimes we can get in, it's a pipe dream. They're just thinking about a project, and we can get involved at that stage. We can also get involved late stage too. It really depends on how sophisticated the clients are and how they operate. But yes, I do think we are a leading indicator. I think we are even more of a leading indicator than architects. So we do have some concerns of what's next. But right now, again, everyone's sort of emotional and they're caught up in a lot of stuff, and they're not going to make heady decisions in these kind of times, which means that right now they're caretaking for their own organizations before they're trying to look for other things. So what we saw even the last couple of weeks is that we saw opportunists. We saw some companies that said, this is our time. Let's go out there and let's look for projects to be done. And this is just on the real estate side of what we do, not on the safety side. but they started to look for what kind of projects can we do. So I think that's going to determine the outcome, is how many opportunists. There's a lot of capital waiting to be deployed. We also have seen that, sort of lost my train of thought on that, but we haven't seen what will happen with infrastructure too. The administration has talked about a $1 trillion to $2 trillion infrastructure package, so that could stimulate that side of it. And from our health and safety side of our business, they're always going to be necessary regardless. So it's, trying to stay diversified. And your clients that are doing construction, they've just got to look for opportunities to add value to their clients.
Mm-hmm. But if you were to, so it's too early to kind of predict what this means now but we would be looking down to stuff potentially late 2022, early 23.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some pain in Q1 of next year. I think that we're going to see a slower recovery over the next, year or two. I don't think that this is going to be a V by any means. And it may not be a letter that we even recognize. It could be some really weird squiggly lines. With the virus, we don't control for that too much. And with social justice and civil unrest, there's a lot of it that we don't control for either. So I would just recommend be patient, stay true to what you do. Don't make any rash decisions. And keep in mind, perspective-wise, is that, there good times don't last forever, but neither do bad times. And this will not last forever. Look for the opportunities in it.
Awesome. Thank you. So just in the last 30 seconds before we close, what would be final words? Because I want to make sure that you've had some amazing, juicy nuggets in here for companies that are going through life now.
Yeah.
What would be one thing that you would say to somebody who is still looking to open up their business to make sure that they can get on the right path? Real quick.
Okay, so 30 seconds. So we started our business during 1993 during a recession and months before the 1994 earthquake. And we've been successful in doing so. So again, I don't think that there's really a wrong time to start a business. But again, eyes wide open, keep your hands on the wheel pretty tight. Again, there's a lot of metaphors, and listen and learn and so forth. And then just in general, I would say for society and for business right now, look for messages that communicate unity and not what divides us, but what unites us. Stay positive for it. Understand before being understood, and so all be good, both in the personal and the professional worlds.
Great statements. So Loren, thank you again for being with us on From the Corner Office at our homes. And, such great conversations today. Gail, I'm so happy to have you on this side of the screen.
I asked way more questions than I thought I would. Sorry.
No, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So San Gabriel Valley, thank you so much for joining us for our episode today, and we will look forward to seeing you next time.
Hopefully in real life, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Loren.
Thank you guys so much.